Holy cow, restarting this video is killing me. So, I have to redo this video because the last one was giving people vertigo and my insurance company said I had to get rid of it. Not really, but... So, the dreaded clicking noise in the extruder. There's a lot of things that can cause this. Very aggravating problem. So, as always, my advice to you is when you first get your printer, do not modify it. You need to be able to see what's going down on the bed and be able to know what adjustments you need to make on the first layer. Once you can identify a first layer, mod away. But until you can do that, highly recommended that you do not mod. However, all these howevers. You never want an instructor that says however a lot. This arm has a tendency to crack. Also, there's a brass fitting here that can pop out of the bottom of this. So a lot of guys like to change this. I don't think this is a critical upgrade, but it can set you back. This is the thing about upgrades is you can make little mistakes and just really drive yourself insane. And one mistake people make is they over tighten the screw. And once they over tighten that screw, this does not move anymore. And sometimes right when you torque it down the last little bit, it'll move down a little bit just like that. And now it's not grabbing like it's supposed to. So do not over tighten the screw. So the other thing I've seen is people will have their nozzle right up against their glass. So, you know, when it's right up against the glass, it's not going to be able to pump through the glass or push the springs out of the way, and it's going to skip right here. So this is often is a flow or an extrusion problem. So anything that can mess up your flow or extrusion could basically cause this thing to click. So if you're printing in a cold ambient environment, sometimes it'll get too cold and your nozzle will overcool. Now, if you look, your heat block has your thermistor, your element, but your nozzle is way over here. And this very end of the nozzle, out here in space, starting to get pretty far away from all this area right here. If you get too cold, you can cool the tip of this nozzle too cold. Your screen says you're fine. Thermistor says you're fine. That's because you're fine over here. Matter of fact, the bottom part of your nozzle is fine. But when you get towards the tip of your nozzle, too cold. So, another little interesting caveat about this problem right here of having too cold of a nozzle is you'll see people have prints and they'll look like they have a layer with 20% in it, and then they can just pretty much rip their print in half. So, a lot of the times this will happen because it won't happen right away, but as the bed goes down, the air the fan sucks in starts getting colder. It's just not getting the hot air from the bed. Cooling your tip's getting colder and colder and colder. You get to a tipping point, you start getting a little bit of cold clog. Start skipping right here. One important thing to remember. Alright, so other things I've seen are more slicer related, why like somebody will want to put 205 in for a temperature and they'll put 25 or something, just a plain old bad setting in the I've actually did that one time, I believe. I know. Alright, so now we're going to get into the hot end, so it's another source of problem, and you'll hear people talk about how they do the hot end fix. So basically what the hot end fix is, it's pretty simple. So I thought I had a piece of valve tube laying around here. Yeah, I did right here. Alright, so on the Creality hot end, basically this tube slides all the way in. Alright, bottoms out. So that can be a problem. So for a couple reasons. One is you don't always get that in there. Even like right now, I have to want to turn it. So to get it. The first time I slid that in there, it felt like it was bottomed out and it wasn't. Also, I feel like I'm seeing a little bit of red filament on the end of this. And that tells me, thought I saw something, might be imagining that. So what happens? What happens is this won't be in all the way, and you'll get filament. A lot of guys, can happen in a lot of different ways. It can happen when you get a clog for any reason and starts trying to back up. The other thing is, a lot of guys will say, oh man, just you got a problem, heat your nozzle up to whatever degree. You know, if you heat your like PLA up to like 240 and you have a clogged nozzle, that starts creeping up in here, and if it gets between where this meets and dries, there's no way it's going to ever get cool again. Bang, you got some kind of little restriction right in there. The hot end fix basically cuts you a piece of this that fits in here permanently at a certain length, so when you screw your top connector on, you know, it's right up against the filament, it's tight in there, and you don't have to worry about that gap. So I've got a bunch of different throats coming. I have a 30 millimeter that this tube's only going to go in about this much right here. It's going to make the thing a little bit longer, but it's only going to go in that much. And that's well out of where you're going to get any kind of creep or any kind of problem. But in mine, I have the micro Swiss on mine. I don't know if you can see them. And it's a solution. I think this, if I could get, when I get these, if I could get these in 27, there's no doubt. I would just tell everybody, do not buy the micro Swiss, buy the $2 frickin' throat. Alright, there's a couple other things here. One is, when you screw this on here, your throat in to the heat block, if you look at this nozzle, we got a little gap right here between the nozzle and the heat block. And you want that because what that's telling you is that the nozzle bottomed out against the bottom of the heat block, and that there's no space in there, because that's another spot you don't want to get space. You'd be like, oh well, the filament's just going to get heated up, so you know, what's the problem? Well, the problem is that there's a gap in there. When filament gets heated and cooled and heated and cooled and heated and cooled over and over again, it can become crusty. So you can get the crusty in between that gap, and then it can break loose, and bang, and little pieces break off, and you keep getting clogged nozzles all the time, you know, and then you call the filament company and tell them they're a bunch of assholes. So yeah, there's a lot of curveballs you can get in printing, a lot of things that can screw you up along the way, but you're just gonna have to slow down, pay attention, and but yeah, this under extrusion problem can be a major pain in the ass. The other thing I'll just leave you with on cold weather environment printing, because I've done a lot of it in this shop, there's a gap on this cover right here, and because of that, when this fan is on in the wintertime cooling the nozzle, it can come down and blow on the print, cause warping on the print. Even if you turn this fan off because of this big gap. Now I've seen guys that have kits. I've seen at least one guy that had something that really tightened this up. He saw the problem, he made a kit on the on Thingiverse. It's kind of challenging, it kind of gets hot down here. I haven't really looked at plastic hot ends, you know, the covers that redo it all with the fancy fans. A lot of the ones I've seen look like they have some static issues. So the ones that have the hamster wheel, like this is a different style fan than this one, but a lot of them have the squirrel cage style fan that are bigger. Now those are the right ones to use in a high static environment. But yeah, this gap right here on the bottom, I take silver tape sometimes and put it on there. I've also tapped this off. You might have seen pictures in the past on my printer. I had a little tape on here, and then I wrote forward on it, a little grill tape, make it go faster. Alright, so I'm just babbling now. I think that's about it. Hopefully I remembered everything so I don't have to do this video for like the millionth time. Alright, good luck everybody.